This is the girl they sent to replace Althea. She doesn't even speak proper English. What will the O associates think when they discover the Iron Regent married a hillbilly? Her sister refused to marry him because he was broken, blood-stained, and feared, so they sent Marcia instead. She crossed an ocean to wed a man confined to steel and leather, a man whose smile never reached his eyes, a man who despised her before she arrived. The diamond slid onto her finger. Cold, heavy, wrong. The groom's lips curved upward. The bride's throat tightened. Everyone believed she was being sacrificed. No one realized the girl they replaced would become the only woman he could never replace. Before I begin, please subscribe to this channel and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Your support keeps these stories coming. And I read every single comment. Now, let's dive in. Chapter 1. The O family estate rose from the Seoul hillside like a monument to power, glass, steel, and silence. Inside the main hall, beneath chandeliers that cost more than Marcia's entire village, the associates gathered. Not for her, for him, Min Soo. Oh, the Iron Regent of Busan sat motionless in his wheelchair near the window. His face was carved from stone, his suit immaculate, his hands folded across his lap like a king receiving petitions. Marcia stood 3 steps behind him, where replacements belonged. "This is Min Soo's bride?" A woman's voice, sharp as shattered glass, sliced through the murmurs. Lady Hyerin Beck, wife of one of the O family's oldest allies, approached with measured steps. Her gaze swept over Marcia like she was evaluating livestock. "I heard she came from… where was it? Some parish in Jamaica?" "Saint Dathryn," Marcia said quietly. "Saint what?" Lady Hyerin's laugh was crystalline and cruel. "Forgive me, darling, I don't keep track of rural postcodes." The room rippled with polite laughter. Min Soo said nothing. A younger woman joined the circle, Seo-yeon Park, daughter of a shipping magnate, draped in Dior and disdain. "Did you finish university, Marcia? Or is it still customary in your parish to marry before education?" Marcia's jaw tightened. "I didn't attend university." "Ah!" Seo-yeon exchanged glances with Lady Hyerin. "Well, at least you're honest. That's refreshing." "Refreshingly primitive," someone whispered from the back. More laughter. Marcia's hands trembled, but she kept them folded, silent, still, watching. Because St. Dathryn Parish had taught her something these women would never understand. Endurance outlasted cruelty. An older man approached, a business associate named Dae Jung Choi, whose company supplied half the steel used in O's construction empire. He moved with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. "Min Soo," he said, barely glancing at Marcia. "I must say, when I heard you were marrying, I expected someone with connections, background, business acumen." He gestured vaguely toward Marcia. "Is she even literate in Korean?" "I speak 3 languages," Marcia said softly. Dae-jung blinked. "Oh? And which 3 would those be?" "English, Korean, and patois." "Patois." He repeated the word like it was a disease. "How quaint." Lady Hyerin leaned closer, her perfume expensive and suffocating. "Darling, you'll need to work on your posture. Korean society values elegance, grace, the way you stand, so stiff, so agricultural." Marcia's eyes flickered to the wall behind them. A painting hung there, enormous and framed in gold leaf. The card beneath read, "Twilight Cranes over Jeju. Master Kwan Il-sung, 1847. She stared at it for 3 long seconds. Then she spoke. "That painting is fake?" The room went silent. Dae-jung's face darkened. "Excuse me?" "The painting," Marcia repeated, her voice steady. "It's a forgery." Lady Hyerin laughed, a sharp, incredulous bark. "Oh, this is rich. The hillbilly is now an art critic." "Min Soo paid 42 million won for that piece," Dae-jung snapped. "It was authenticated by the National Museum. Are you suggesting I don't know value when I see it?" I'm suggesting, Marcia said calmly, that you were cheated. Seo Yon stepped forward, arms crossed. And what makes you qualified to judge a Master Quan original? Marcia moved toward the painting, her bare feet silent against the marble. The crowd parted, curious now, eager to watch her humiliate herself. She stopped 2 feet from the canvas. Master Quan Il Sung worked exclusively with hanji paper sourced from mulberry trees in Jeonju province. This canvas, she gestured to the weave, is machine-pressed linen. You can see the polymer residue at the edges. Hanji doesn't leave residue. It absorbs. Dae-jung's jaw clenched. And the brushwork, Marcia continued, tilting her head. Master Quan used a split-bristle technique called bun chong. Each stroke tapers naturally because he dipped his brush only once per line. These strokes, she pointed to the crane's wings, were repainted. Multiple dips, uneven ink distribution. Ridiculous, Dae-jung muttered, but his voice wavered. Lady Hyerin glanced at her husband, Taehyun Baek, who stood near the bar. Taehyun, settle this. You know art. Taehyun approached slowly, his eyes narrowing as he studied the painting. He pulled out his phone, tapped a few times, then froze. What is it? Lady Hyerin demanded. Taehyun's voice was tight. There's a news report from 6 months ago. The Jeju Provincial Museum auctioned the original Twilight cranes to a private collector in Singapore. Authenticated provenance. Documented sale. The room held its breath. That means... Seo Yon trailed off, her face pale. That means, Marcia said quietly, whoever sold you this painting knew exactly what they were doing. Dae-jung's face turned crimson. This is absurd. I purchased this from Vincenzo Gallery, run by Sang-uk Moon, Marcia finished. He was arrested 2 years ago for trafficking counterfeit heritage pieces. The gallery shut down. You bought from a ghost. Silence. Then Min-soo's voice, cold and final, cut through the room. Freeze Dae-jung Choi's business accounts. Effective immediately. Dae-jung whirled around. Min-soo, I didn't know. You didn't verify. Min-soo's wheelchair rolled forward, smooth and deliberate. You humiliated my wife publicly. You questioned her intelligence, and you hung a 42 million won insult on my wall. I'll replace it. You'll leave. The associates scattered like smoke. Marcia stood alone beneath the painting, her heart pounding, her hands steady. Min-soo's wheelchair stopped beside her. He didn't look at her, but his voice, when it came, was quieter. How did you know? My grandmother, Marcia said softly. Eudora Kintyre. She worked for a British art collector who retired to Jamaica. He taught her to spot forgeries. She taught me. Min-soo's fingers tightened on the armrest. Welcome to Korea, Mrs. O. The bedroom they assigned her was larger than her childhood home. White walls, black furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline, and a bed, king-sized, empty. Marcia sat on the edge, still wearing her wedding dress, her hands folded in her lap. The door opened. Min-soo rolled inside, his expression unreadable. You embarrassed Dae-jung, he said. He embarrassed himself. You made enemies. I made a point. Min-soo's eyes narrowed. Do you understand what you've walked into? This isn't St. Dathryn. Mistakes here don't cost you pride. They cost you everything. Marcia met his gaze. Then I'll be careful not to make mistakes. His lips twitched, not quite a smile. You think you're clever. I think I'm observant. Observation won't save you from this family. Neither will silence. Min-soo studied her for a long moment. Then he gestured toward the far wall. Your room is through that door. Marcia blinked. I'm not sleeping here? Why would you? Because we're married. No, Min-soo said, his voice flat. You're contracted. There's a difference. He rolled toward the door, then paused. And Marcia? Yes? Stay out of my way. The door closed behind him. Marcia sat alone in the massive bedroom, her wedding ring heavy on her finger. She didn't cry. She'd done enough of that in Jamaica. Instead, she stood, walked to the window, then and stared out at the city that would either break her or bow to her. They think I'm a replacement, she thought. They think I'll disappear. She touched the glass, cold beneath her palm. They're wrong. The next morning, Marcia woke to a soft knock. "Come in," she called, pulling a robe over her nightgown. The door opened to reveal Lady Su Min, Minsu's mother. She was elegant, composed, and terrifying in the way only powerful women could be. "Good morning, Marcia." "Good morning, Mother." Lady Su Min stepped inside, her heels clicking against the floor. "I trust you slept well?" "Yes, thank you." "Good." She placed a small bottle on the dresser. "This is medicinal oil, Korean traditional blend, ginger root, mugwort, arnica." Marcia picked it up, studying the label. "What is it for?" "Minsu's legs." Lady Su Min's voice softened. "The doctors say consistent massage might help with circulation, reduce muscle atrophy, but he refuses treatment from the staff. He refuses everyone." "And you think he'll accept it from me?" "You're his wife." "Am I?" Marcia thought, but she nodded. "I'll try." Lady Su Min's expression shifted, something almost vulnerable flickering beneath the control. "Marcia, there's something else you should know." "Yes?" "After the accident, the doctors said Minsu might have sustained other injuries. Internal, personal." Marcia's breath caught. "You mean—" "I don't know for certain." Lady Su Min's voice was barely a whisper. "He won't allow examinations, but if he has lost that part of himself, I need to know. For the family. For succession." Marcia's stomach turned. "They want me to find out if he's impotent." "I understand," she said quietly. Lady Su Min touched her shoulder. "You're stronger than Althea. I knew it the moment I met you. Don't let my son's cruelty convince you otherwise." She left. Marcia stood alone, holding the bottle of oil, her hands trembling. This is what they want from me. Proof. Answers. Heirs. She looked at the closed door leading to Minsu's room. Fine. Let's find out what's really broken. That night, Marcia didn't wait for an invitation. She knocked once, then opened the door. Minsu sat by the window, his wheelchair facing the city lights. He didn't turn. "I told you to stay out. Your mother gave me a task." "I don't care." Marcia stepped inside, closing the door behind her. "Massage therapy. For your legs." Now he turned, his expression dark. "No." "Why not?" "Because I said so." Marcia moved closer, the bottle of oil in her hands. "Are you afraid?" His eyes flashed. "Of you? Hardly." "Then let me help." "I don't need help." "Liar." The word hung between them, sharp and undeniable. Minsu's jaw clenched. "Get out." "No." "Marcia." "Minsu." She knelt in front of his wheelchair, her eyes level with his. "I crossed an ocean to be here. I endured your family's insults. I embarrassed your associates. I ate your food, wore your ring, and took your name. The least you can do is let me touch your legs." His breathing quickened. "What are you so afraid of?" she whispered. "That you'll pity me." "I don't pity you." "Then what do you feel?" Marcia smiled, small and sad. "Curiosity." Chapter 2. Minsu's empire operated from the shadows. The O family compound sprawled across 6 acres of Seoul's most exclusive district, Seongbuk-dong, where politicians, chaebols, and criminals lived behind walls too high for cameras. The main house was steel and glass, cold as the man who ruled from within it. Marcia learned the routine quickly. Minsu woke at 5 a.m. His assistant Junho Ri, a granite-faced man with military precision, would wheel him to the private gym. No one was allowed inside during these sessions. Not staff, not family, not wives. At 7 a.m., breakfast, alone, in his study. At 8 a.m., business calls, the kind where voices dropped to whispers and doors locked behind him. By noon, he'd have met with 6 different men, lawyers, accountants, enforcers, all of whom treated his wheelchair like a throne, and by evening he'd retreat to his room, seal the door, and disappear until morning. Marcia wasn't invited into any of it. Mrs. Oh, your schedule. Lady Sumin handed her a leather folio 3 days after the wedding. Korean language lessons, Monday and Wednesday. Etiquette training with Lady Mi Ray, song, Tuesday and Thursday. Charity luncheons with the Wives Association, Friday. Marcia flipped through the pages. Every hour accounted for. Controlled. Managed. What about Min Soo? She asked. Lady Sumin's smile was careful. What about him? When do I see him? You live in the same house. We don't share a room. We don't eat together. We barely speak. Lady Sumin's expression softened. Min Soo is complicated. His accident changed him. The man he was, confident, social, commanding, died in that ambush. What's left is... She trailed off. Give him time. How much time? As much as he needs. That afternoon, Marcia encountered Dr. Xiongguan Ilieo in the hallway outside Min Soo's study. He was younger than she expected, mid-40s, sharp-eyed, impeccably dressed. He carried a black leather medical bag and wore the confidence of someone who'd never been questioned. Mrs. Oh, he inclined his head. We haven't been formally introduced. I'm Dr. Ilio, Min Soo's personal physician. Marcia extended her hand. Marcia. His handshake was brief, clinical. I understand Lady Su Min has asked you to assist with Min Soo's physical therapy. She mentioned massage. Dr. Ilio's expression remained neutral. I should clarify the medical realities. Min Soo suffered complete spinal cord damage at the T12 vertebra. The injury resulted in paraplegia, permanent loss of function below the waist. No amount of massage will reverse this. But it might improve circulation. Marginally. At best. Then marginally is better than nothing. Dr. Ilio studied her for a long moment. Mrs. Oh, I've treated Min Soo for 3 years. I've consulted with the best neurologists in Seoul, Tokyo, and Boston. The prognosis is irreversible. I tell you this not to discourage you, but to prevent false hope. Hope isn't false just because it's unlikely. His smile was thin. Spoken like someone unfamiliar with spinal trauma. Spoken like someone unfamiliar with endurance. Dr. Ilio's eyes narrowed. Then he nodded. Best of luck, Mrs. O. You'll need it. He left. Marcia stood in the hallway, her jaw tight, permanent, irreversible. The words felt heavy, final. But something in the doctor's tone, too smooth, too certain, made her uneasy. Lady Miraisong was 70, elegant, and merciless. She arrived at the O compound every Tuesday and Thursday at precisely 2 p.m., carrying a leather-bound manual titled The Art of Korean Household Management. A wife, she intoned during their first lesson, is the foundation upon which a family's reputation is built. Your husband may command empires, but you command his home. Marcia sat across from her in the tea room, a notebook open on her lap. First lesson, tea service. Lady Mireille demonstrated the precise angle for pouring, the proper way to hold the cup, the correct phrases for offering refreshment to guests. Marcia mimicked her movements. Lady Mireille's expression soured. Your wrist is stiff. I'll practice. Your posture is too casual. I'll adjust. Your accent is unfortunate. Marcia's hand stilled. My accent is Jamaican. Yes, that's the problem. Lady Mireille sipped her tea. High society expects refinement, grace. You sound like you're shouting across a field. I'm not shouting. You might as well be. Marcia set down the teapot, her movements careful, controlled. Lady Mireille, I understand you're here to teach me, but I won't apologize for where I come from. No one asked you to apologize. I'm simply stating facts. And the fact is, I'm Min Soo's wife, not his project. Lady Mireille's eyes glittered. We'll see how long that lasts. She left 30 minutes early. That evening, Marcia stood outside Min Soo's door, the bottle of medicinal oil in her hands. She'd avoided this moment for 3 days, but tonight her patience ran out. She knocked once. No answer. She knocked again. "Go away," Minsu's voice muffled through the door. Marcia opened it anyway. Minsu sat by his desk, papers scattered across the surface. He didn't look up. "I said go away." "I heard you." "Then why are you here?" Marcia stepped inside, closing the door behind her. "Because your mother asked me to help you, and I'm tired of being ignored." Now he looked up, his expression dark. "You think I need help from you? I think you need help from someone." "I don't." "Liar." He slammed his hand on the desk. "Get out." "No." Minsu's jaw clenched. "Marcia, I'm not in the mood for games." "Neither am I." She moved closer, setting the oil on the desk. "I crossed an ocean for this marriage. I endured your family's insults. I learned your language, your customs, your rules. The least you can do is let me try." "Try what? To fix me?" His laugh was bitter. "I'm not broken furniture, Marcia. I'm not a project you can repair with good intentions and Jamaican folk medicine. I never said you were broken." "Then what am I?" She met his eyes. "Afraid." The word hung between them, sharp and undeniable. Minsu's breathing quickened. "You don't know anything about me." "I know you won't let anyone touch you. I know you eat alone. I know you lock yourself in this room every night like you're hiding from the world." "I'm not hiding." "Then what are you doing?" "Surviving." The rawness in his voice stopped her. Marcia's expression softened. "Then let me help you survive better." Minsu stared at her for a long moment. Then he gestured to his legs. "Fine. You want to try? Try. But when it doesn't work, I don't want to hear about hope or healing or any of that meaningless optimism." "Deal." Marcia knelt beside his wheelchair, her hands steady as she uncapped the oil. The scent of ginger and mugwort filled the room. Earthy, sharp, grounding. She poured a small amount into her palm, warming it between her hands. "This will feel cold at first," she said softly. "I won't feel anything." "Maybe." She placed her hands on his left leg, just above the knee. Minsu flinched. "Did that hurt?" she asked. "No. It's just... no one's touched me there in 3 years." "Why not?" "Because they pity me. Because they think I'm fragile. Because..." He stopped. "Just finish." Marcia worked in silence, her fingers tracing the muscle patterns she remembered from Eudora's lessons. Pressure points, nerve clusters. The pathways where energy flowed or blocked. She noticed everything. The way his breathing changed when she pressed near his hip. The slight twitch in his calf when she worked the outer thigh. The tension in his jaw when her hands moved lower. "You're not paralyzed," she said quietly. Minsu's eyes snapped to hers. "What?" "Your body is responding. Small responses, but they're there." "Dr. Ilio said..." "Dr. Ilio isn't here right now." Minsu's hands gripped the armrests. "Stop. Just stop." "Why?" "Because if you're wrong, if this is just phantom sensation or nerve damage or..." His voice cracked. "I can't hope again, Marcia, I can't." She looked up at him, her hands still resting on his leg. "Then don't hope," she whispered. "Just let me keep trying." Later that night, Marcia couldn't sleep. She wandered the mansion's halls, the marble cold beneath her bare feet. Voices drifted from the study, low, tense, male. She stopped outside the door. Should have died in that ambush. The voice belonged to someone she didn't recognize. Deep, cold. Would have been cleaner. Beck Horieon wanted him alive, another voice replied. Alive but broken. Easier to control. And now? Now he's married. The Lewis girl. No one important. Rural. Disposable. Does she know? Know what? That her sister was supposed to marry him. That Minsu's fiancé abandoned him the moment she saw the wheelchair. That this entire marriage is a humiliation disguised as alliance. Laughter, low, cruel. The girl doesn't matter. Minsu's finished. Even if he survives, he'll never walk again. Dr. Ilios made sure of that. Marcia's blood ran cold. Dr. Ilios made sure of that. She pressed her back against the wall, her heart pounding. Before she could move, footsteps approached. She fled. The next morning, Marcia found Min-soo in the garden. A rare appearance outside his study. She approached carefully. "You're up early," she said. "Couldn't sleep." "Neither could I." He glanced at her. "Why?" She hesitated. "Min-soo, do you trust Dr. Ilio?" His expression darkened. "Why are you asking?" "Just curious." "Don't be curious about things that don't concern you." "But what if they do concern me?" Min-soo rolled his wheelchair closer, his voice dropping to a warning. "Marcia, listen to me very carefully. This family, this world, is not what you think it is. There are people who want me weak, people who benefit from my disability, and if you start asking questions, you'll make enemies you can't survive. I'm already your wife. I already have enemies." "Then don't make more." "What if I told you—" "Stop." His hand shot out, gripping her wrist, not hard but firm. "Do not try to save what I've already buried." She met his eyes. "What if it's not buried? What if it's just hidden?" Min-soo released her, his jaw tight. "You're naive." "I'm observant." "It'll get you killed." "Then I'll die knowing I tried." He stared at her for a long moment. Then he rolled away, leaving her alone in the garden. That night, Marcia returned to Min-soo's room. He didn't protest when she knocked. He didn't speak when she knelt beside him. She worked in silence, her hands steady, her focus absolute. And then she pressed a point just below his knee. The traditional pressure point Eudora called Yongcheon, the bubbling spring. Min-soo's leg jerked, not much, barely visible, but undeniable. His eyes widened. "What did you—" "Again," Marcia whispered. She pressed again. His leg twitched. Min-soo's breath caught. "Marcia, you felt that." I don't know what I felt. You felt something." He stared at his leg, his hands trembling. "This isn't possible." "Maybe it is." Min-soo looked at her, his expression caught between terror and hope. "Don't tell anyone," he whispered. "Not yet." "Why not?" "Because if people know, I might recover." He stopped. "Just don't. Promise me." Marcia nodded. "I promise." But as she left his room that night, one thought echoed in her mind. Dr. Ilios made sure of that. Someone had stolen Min-soo's healing. And Marcia intended to find out who. Chapter 3. The mansion was a living organism. Marcia learned its rhythms, the sound of Junho's morning reports, the click of Lady Sumin's heels on marble, the way the staff whispered when they thought no one was listening. She learned which hallways echoed, which rooms were monitored, which moments offered privacy, and she used that knowledge, because the girl from St. Dathryn Parish knew how to disappear in plain sight. The Wives' Association luncheon was held at the Schiller Hotel, a monument to wealth and status perched above the Han River. Marcia arrived in a cream Chanel dress Lady Su-min had selected, elegant, expensive, and suffocating. The ballroom glittered with crystal and cruelty. Lady Hye Rin Bayek presided over a table of 6 women, all of whom turned to watch Marcia approach. "Oh, look! The rural bride." Lady Hye Rin's smile was poison-wrapped in silk. "Tell me, Marcia, how are you adjusting to Seoul? Must be quite different from— what was it? St. Dustbin Parish?" "St. Dathryn," Marcia corrected calmly. Right. "And what exactly does one do in St. Dathryn? Tend goats?" Laughter rippled through the table. Marcia sat, her posture perfect. "We farmed. My grandmother grew yams, callaloo, and ake. She also taught me traditional medicine, herbal remedies, pressure therapy." "How rustic." Jiwoo Nam, wife of a Supreme Court judge, wrinkled her nose. "I'm sure that's very useful for whatever people do in the countryside." "It's useful anywhere bodies need healing," Marcia replied evenly. Does Min-soo know you're practicing folk medicine on him? Seo Yeon-park asked, her tone dripping false concern. I'd hate for you to accidentally make things worse. I'd hate that too. Then perhaps you should leave medical matters to actual doctors. Marcia sipped her water. Perhaps I should. The conversation moved on. Fashion, charity galas, whose husband bought which yacht. But Marcia noticed the glances, the whispers behind cupped hands. They thought she was stupid. Good. Stupid people were underestimated, and underestimation was power. That night, while Min-soo was locked in business calls, Marcia slipped into his private study. The room smelled of leather and smoke, expensive, masculine, forbidden. She moved to the filing cabinet in the corner. Locked. She tried the desk drawers. Also locked. But the bookshelf behind his chair, leather-bound medical journals stacked neatly, wasn't secured. She pulled down the third volume, Neurological Recovery, Post-Trauma, Case Studies 2020, 2023. Inside, folded between pages, was a medical file. Patient. O. Min-soo diagnosis. Complete T12 spinal cord injury. Prognosis. Irreversible paraplegia. Treatment plan. Pain management, muscle relaxants, psychological therapy, medications, gabapentin. 800 mg 3 times daily, nerve pain. Baclofen. 60 mg daily, muscle spasms. Clonazepam. 4 mg nightly, anxiety sleep. Marcia photographed the pages with her phone. Then she kept reading. Deeper in the file, lab reports, MRI scans, progress notes from Dr. Ilio. One entry caught her eye. Patient remains non-compliant with physical therapy. Psychological resistance remains high. Medication increased to manage agitation. Recommend continued sedation protocols. Sedation protocols. Marcia's hands trembled. She flipped to the pharmacy records. The dosages had increased steadily over 3 years. Small increments, barely noticeable. But together, Min-soo was being medicated into permanent paralysis. That night, Marcia couldn't sleep. She lay in her room staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. And then, unbidden, a memory surfaced. St. Dathrin Parish, age 14. Eudora's hands, gnarled and steady, pressing into the back of a man named Fabian Drummond, a farmer who'd fallen from a roof and couldn't walk. The body remembers trauma, Eudora said softly, even when the mind forgets. But sometimes, child, the trauma isn't the injury. It's what people do after. What do you mean, Grandma? Fabian's doctor gave him pills, strong pills, said they'd help with pain. But look, she gestured to his legs. No swelling, no bruising, just stillness. So he's not hurt? Oh, he's hurt, but not from the fall. Eudora's voice dropped. The pills hurt him, keep him dependent, keep him weak. Why would a doctor do that? Eudora met her eyes. Control, child. Some people heal. Some people profit from sickness. Marcia sat up, her heart pounding. Some people profit from sickness. Dr. Ilio wasn't treating Min-soo. He was controlling him. The next morning, Marcia watched Min-soo take his pills. 4 of them. White, blue, yellow, green. He swallowed them without question, his expression blank. Do you know what those are? She asked carefully. Pain medication. All of them. Does it matter? It might. Min-soo's eyes narrowed. Why are you asking? Just curious. Don't be. But that night, when Marcia brought him tea, she watched him closely. His hands shook. His eyes unfocused after 30 minutes. His speech slurred slightly, just enough to notice. And his legs, when she touched them, felt heavier than before. He's being drugged. She couldn't say it aloud. Not yet, but she could act. 3 nights later, Marcia woke to screaming. She bolted upright, heart pounding. The sound came from Min-soo's room. She ran. When she burst through the door, Min-soo was thrashing in his bed, his face twisted in terror, his hands clawing at invisible attackers. No, don't. Min-soo! Marcia grabbed his shoulders. Wake up! He swung blindly, his fist connecting with her cheek. Pain exploded across her face, but she didn't let go. Min-soo, it's me. It's Marcia. You're safe. His eyes snapped open, wild, unfocused, drowning. Marcia? I'm here. His breathing was ragged, his body shaking. They were... I know. It was a dream. It wasn't a dream, it was real. They came for me, He stopped, his voice breaking. They left me in that warehouse, bleeding, broken, and she... His hands covered his face. She looked at me and walked away. Who? Una. The name came out like a curse. My fiancé. She saw what they did to me and she left. Marcia's chest tightened. I don't blame her, Minsu whispered. Who would want this? Who would stay? I would. He looked at her, his eyes red. Why? Because I know what it's like to be abandoned. You don't understand. My mother left when I was 6. My father followed a year later. Althea got the family's love. I got their resentment. So yes, Minsu, I understand. He stared at her for a long moment. Then he let her hold him, not as a lover. As someone who knew what it meant to survive rejection. After that night, something shifted. Minsu didn't push her away. He didn't invite her in either, but he stopped locking his door. And when she brought him tea, he drank it. When she asked about his day, he answered. Small steps, but steps. 2 weeks into her quiet care, Marcia noticed something. Minsu moved differently. He shifted his weight more easily in his wheelchair. His face, when she massaged his legs, showed less tension. And one morning, when she pressed the Yongcheon point, his entire leg moved. Not a twitch, a movement. Minsu gasped. Did you? I saw it. How is this possible? Marcia looked at the pill bottles on his nightstand. I don't know, she lied, but I think we're on to something. Minsu stared at his legs, his expression caught between terror and wonder. Don't tell anyone, he whispered again. Not yet. But outside his door, in the hallway, Junho Ri stood listening, and when Marcia left, he pulled out his phone. The message was brief. She's making him better. What do you want me to do? The reply came instantly. Stop her. Chapter 4. Minsu woke to sensation. Not pain, not numbness, sensation. A tingling warmth in his left thigh, subtle as morning light. Undeniable as a heartbeat. He stared at his legs beneath the covers, his breath shallow. Then he tried something he hadn't attempted in 3 years. He concentrated. Move. Just move. His toes flexed. Barely. But they moved. Oh, God, he whispered. Marcia found him in the garden again, his wheelchair positioned beneath a cherry blossom tree. You're outside more, she observed. Needed air. Or needed to test something. His eyes snapped to hers. What makes you say that? Because I know you. She sat on the stone bench beside him. You're moving differently. Your posture is straighter. Your hands don't shake as much in the mornings. Maybe I'm just adjusting to your tea. Or maybe the massage is working. Minsu looked away. If people knew. They don't. But if they did, they'd wonder why Dr. Ilio's treatment failed. They'd ask questions. They'd investigate. Marcia's voice dropped. And whoever benefits from your disability would panic. Minsu's jaw tightened. You've thought about this. I've observed this. It's dangerous to observe too much in this family. It's dangerous to ignore what's right in front of you. He studied her for a long moment. How did you know about the medication? Your grandmother? My grandmother taught me to recognize when someone's being kept sick. And you think I'm being kept sick. I think someone wants you in that chair. Minsu's hands clenched. If you're right, then we need proof. And if we're caught looking for it, Marcia met his eyes, then we'd better not get caught. Dr. Ilio arrived for his weekly examination at precisely 3 p.m. Marcia watched from the doorway as he checked Minsu's vitals, his movements efficient, clinical. Blood pressure's improved, De Ilio noted. Heart rate stable. How's the pain? Less, Minsu said carefully. Less? De Ilio's pen paused on his clipboard. In what way? Just less intense. Maybe I'm adjusting to the medication. That's unusual. Dr. Ilio's gaze shifted to Marcia. Mrs. Oh, have you been administering the massage therapy? Yes. Frequency? Every evening. And you're using the oil Lady Sumin provided? I am. Dr. Ilio's expression remained neutral, but something cold flickered behind his eyes. I see. Well, massage can provide temporary relief, but please don't mistake that for actual recovery. I wouldn't dream of it, Marcia said smoothly. After Dr. Ilio left, Min-Soo looked at her. He knows something's changing. Good. Good? If he's worried, it means we're threatening something he wants protected. Min-Soo's eyes darkened. You're playing a dangerous game. So are you. The question is, are we playing together or separately? He smiled, small but real. Together. The threat arrived in the form of an invitation. Baek Horyeon, the Kingpin who controlled Busan's southern ports, requested Min-Soo's presence at a business summit. You can't go, Lady Sumin said firmly. I have to, Min-Soo replied. If I refuse, it signals weakness. You're in a wheelchair, he already knows. He suspects there's a difference. Min-Soo's voice was ice. Baek Horyeon has been circling this family for 3 years, waiting for proof I'm finished. If I don't show, he'll take that as confirmation. Then send a representative. And let him think I'm too weak to face him? Min-Soo shook his head. No, I go. Marcia stepped forward. Then I go with you. Everyone turned. Absolutely not, Lady Sumin said. Why not? Marcia asked. I'm his wife. Isn't that what wives do? Support their husbands? Min-Soo studied her. This isn't a charity luncheon, Marcia. Baek Horyeon is dangerous. Then it's good I'll be there to watch your back. You can't. Try to stop me. Min-Soo's lips twitched. You're stubborn. I learned from the best, Lady Sumin sighed. Fine. But Marcia, be careful. Baek Horyeon doesn't play by rules. Neither do I, Marcia said quietly. The night before the summit, Marcia couldn't sleep. She wandered the mansion, her mind racing through scenarios, strategies, dangers. Voices drifted from the library. She stopped outside. Telling you, the girl's a problem. Junho's voice, tight with frustration. She's nobody. That was Dr. Ilio. A rural replacement. She'll disappear once Min-Soo realizes she's useless. But what if she doesn't? What if she actually... Junho stopped. He moved his leg yesterday. I saw it. Silence. Then Dr. Ilio, colder than Marcia had ever heard. That's not possible. I've calibrated his medication precisely to prevent... To prevent what? Recovery? To prevent hope. Hope makes men reckless. Min-Soo in a wheelchair is controllable. Min-Soo walking is a threat to Baek Horyeon's plans. Exactly. Marcia's blood turned to ice. So what do we do? Junho asked. Increase the dosage, gradually. Make it look like his condition's worsening naturally. And the wife? If she continues interfering, we'll handle her. How? However necessary. Marcia pressed herself against the wall, her heart pounding so hard she thought they'd hear it. She didn't wait to hear more. She fled back to her room, locked the door, and finally allowed herself to shake. They're going to kill his recovery, and they're going to kill me if I stop them. The next morning, Marcia found Min-Soo alone in his study. She closed the door behind her. We need to talk. He looked up from his papers. About? About who's trying to keep you in that wheelchair. His expression darkened. Marcia, Dr. Ilio is poisoning you. Not enough to kill you. Just enough to keep you paralyzed. Min-Soo went very still. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth. I heard him last night. Talking with Junho. They're working with Baek Horyeon. That's impossible. Junho has been with me for 15 years. And Dr. Ilio's been medicating you for 3. How convenient. Min-Soo's hands trembled. Why would they... Because you in a wheelchair are easy to control. You recovered? You're dangerous. I'm barely moving my toes, which is more than you were moving last month, and that terrifies them. Marcia moved closer. Min-Soo, they're increasing your medication. They're going to make it look like you're getting worse. You can't know that? I heard them say it. Min-Soo stared at her. his face a mask of warring emotions, rage, fear, betrayal. "If this is true," he said slowly, "then everyone I've trusted has been lying to you." He looked away, his jaw tight. "Why would Junho betray me? Money, power, fear, does it matter?" "It matters to me." Marcia knelt beside his wheelchair. "Minsu, I know this is terrifying, but we can't ignore it, not now." "What do you want me to do?" "Stop taking their pills. Start taking mine." He looked at her sharply. "Yours?" "I've been researching. Traditional anti-inflammatories, nerve regeneration herbs, nothing toxic, nothing dangerous, just alternatives." "You want me to trust you over a licensed physician?" "I want you to trust yourself. You know something's wrong. You've known for months. You just didn't want to believe people you love could hurt you." Minsu's eyes closed. "This is insane." "So is staying in a wheelchair when your body wants to heal." He opened his eyes, and for the first time Marcia saw tears. "What if you're wrong?" he whispered. "What if I stop the medication and I get worse? What if you don't?" That night Minsu let Marcia stay, not for massage, just to sit. They didn't speak, but when his hand found hers in the darkness, she held it. And for the first time since the wedding, Minsu didn't feel alone. The message arrived via Lady Sumin's phone. A text from an international number. "Heard Minsu might be recovering. Coming home to check on my brother-in-law. See you soon. Althea." Lady Sumin showed it to Marcia. "Your sister's coming." Marcia stared at the screen, her stomach turning to stone. "When?" 3 days. Minsu rolled into the room. "Who's coming?" Marcia looked at him, her voice steady despite the panic rising in her chest. "The woman who was supposed to marry you." Minsu's face went pale. "Althea? She knows you might recover." "How?" "I don't know, but she's coming." Minsu's hands gripped the armrests. "Why?" Marcia's smile was bitter. "Because she thinks you're worth something again." Chapter 5. Althea Lewin arrived like a storm wrapped in Valentino. The black car pulled up to the O compound at noon, and when the door opened she emerged, tall, elegant, devastating. Her skin glowed, her hair fell in perfect waves, her heels clicked against the driveway like a countdown. Marcia watched from the second-floor window, her hands clenched. "She's beautiful," Lady Sumin said quietly beside her. "She always was." "And she's here for your husband." "She's here for his recovery. There's a difference." Lady Sumin's eyes softened. "Are you afraid?" "No." Marcia turned from the window. "I'm angry." The O family gathered in the main hall for Althea's arrival. Minsu sat in his wheelchair near the window, his expression unreadable. Marcia stood behind him. Where wives belonged. The door opened. Althea entered Bray, her smile radiant. "Oh my God, this house is stunning." "Minsu, I had no idea." She stopped when she saw him. Her eyes went to the wheelchair, then to Marcia. "Marcia?" Her voice was honey and venom. "Look at you, all grown up." "Althea, you look different, more polished. Soul's been good to you." "It's been educational." Althea laughed, light, musical, rehearsed. "I bet. And Minsu?" She approached, crouching beside his wheelchair. "It's been so long. How are you feeling?" "Fine," Minsu said flatly. "Just fine. I heard you've been making progress. That must be so exciting." "Where did you hear that?" "Oh, you know, family talks." Althea's smile didn't waver. "I felt terrible when I heard about your accident. I wanted to visit, but..." She glanced at Marcia. "Things were complicated." "Complicated," Minsu repeated. "Is that what we're calling it?" Althea's expression flickered. "I didn't come here to fight." "Then why did you come?" "To see my sister. To meet my brother-in-law properly. To reconnect." "Reconnect," Marcia said softly. "You refused to marry him 3 years ago. Now you're here to reconnect." Althea stood brushing invisible dust from her dress. Marcia, I was young, scared. I made a mistake. A mistake you're hoping to fix now that he's recovering. That's not fair. Neither was abandoning him. Althea's eyes hardened. I didn't abandon anyone. I made a choice, just like you made a choice to take what was mine. What was yours? Marcia's voice rose. You didn't want him. You called him broken. You said marrying a cripple would curse 8 generations. I never said that. Yes, you did. In our kitchen. The night the proposal came. Althea's face went pale. Minsu's voice cut through the tension. Both of you. Stop. They turned. He rolled forward, his expression carved from ice. Althea, you're welcome to stay as a guest, but make no mistake, Marcia is my wife. That won't change. Althea's smile returned, brittle as glass. Of course. I understand completely, but her eyes, when they met Marcia's, promised war. That evening, Lady Su Min hosted a dinner party, a diplomatic gathering of business allies, political contacts, and social elites. Marcia wore black silk and armour-thick composure. Althea wore red and weapons. The dining room glittered with crystal and calculation. Marcia sat beside Minsu. Althea sat across from them, perfectly positioned to strike. So, Marcia, Althea began, her voice carrying across the table. I've been hearing stories about you. Apparently, you're quite the art expert now. I know a few things. More than a few, I heard. Didn't you expose some businessman's forgery? How did a girl from St. Dathryn learn about Master Quan paintings? My grandmother taught me. Your grandmother. Althea's smile widened. The same woman who sold plantains at the market. She did many things. I'm sure she did, but authenticating priceless art? That seems ambitious for someone without formal education. Lady Hierin Beck leaned forward, interested. Marcia, where did you study art history? I didn't. Oh. Lady Hierin exchanged glances with Althea. So you're self-taught? I learned through observation and experience. How? Unconventional. Althea sipped her wine. But surely there are limits to what observation can teach. For instance, how would you authenticate a Song Dynasty vase versus a Ming replica? The table went quiet. Marcia met Althea's eyes. I'd look at the glaze composition. Song Dynasty Celadon uses iron oxide reduction firing, which produces a jade-green finish with intentional craquelure patterns. Ming replicas use modern gas kilns, which create uniform glazes without natural stress cracks. Additionally, Song vessels often have unglazed foot rims with oxidized iron spotting, called iron feet. Ming fakes skip this detail because it's labor-intensive. Silence. Then Ambassador Te Han Bayek laughed. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Lady Hierin looked stunned. Where did you learn that? The British collector my grandmother worked for had a Song Dynasty collection. I spent my childhood cataloguing it. Althea's smile tightened. How fortunate. Fortunate? Marcia tilted her head. I thought you'd call it rustic. The table erupted in polite laughter. Althea's face flushed. Minsu's hand found Marcia's beneath the table. He squeezed once. Well done. After dinner, the guests moved to the terrace for champagne and conversation. Althea cornered Marcia near the railing. You think you're clever, she hissed. I think I'm surviving. You're embarrassing yourself, pretending to be something you're not. And what am I pretending to be? Someone worthy of Minsu. Marcia's eyes hardened. I never pretended anything. You're the one who showed up pretending you didn't abandon him. I was protecting myself. You were protecting your pride. And you're protecting a man who doesn't love you. Althea's voice dropped. He tolerates you, Marcia, that's all. Once he's fully recovered, he'll remember what he really wanted. Someone educated, refined, beautiful. Someone like you? Exactly like me. Marcia stepped closer. Then why did he marry me? Althea blinked. Because if he wanted you, Marcia continued softly, he would have waited. He would have begged. He would have fought to change your mind. But he didn't. He moved on. And you can't stand that the girl they sent to replace you is the one he kept. You delusional little... Althea. Minsu's voice cut through the night. They both turned. He'd rolled onto the terrace, his expression unreadable. A word privately. Althea's smile returned. Of course. She followed him inside. Marcia stayed on the terrace, her heart pounding, her hands shaking. She didn't know what Minsu would say, but 10 minutes later, when Althea emerged, her face was pale, her eyes wet. She brushed past Marcia without a word. Minsu appeared in the doorway. What did you say to her? Marcia asked. The truth, which is that she had her chance, and she walked away. Marcia's breath caught. And that you, Minsu's voice softened, are the only woman I want beside me. Later that night, after the guests departed and the house fell silent, Marcia returned to Minsu's room. He was standing, not leaning, not braced, standing. His legs trembled, his hands gripped the bed frame, sweat beaded his forehead, but he was upright. Minsu. His eyes met hers, wild with terror and triumph. I stood, he whispered. I actually stood. Marcia moved to him, her hand steadying his shoulders. How long? 30 seconds, maybe less, but I... His voice cracked. I stood. You stood. They stared at each other, the weight of the moment crushing and exhilarating. Marcia, he whispered, if this is real. It is. Then everything changes. I know. He pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. I'm afraid, he admitted. So am I. But you're still here. I'll always be here. And in that moment, in the darkness and the silence, and the impossible truth of his healing, Minsu. Fell in love with his replacement bride. Chapter 6. The next morning, Marcia woke to a decision. Enough hiding, enough fear, time for truth. She found Dr. Ilio in the medical office, reviewing files. He looked up when she entered. Mrs. O. Unexpected visit. We need to talk. About? About why Minsu's medication has been increased 4 times in 3 years despite no worsening symptoms. Dr. Ilio's expression remained calm. Mrs. Oh, I don't discuss patient care with his wife, the woman legally entitled to his medical information. Marcia stepped forward. Try again. Dr. Ilio set down his pen. What exactly are you accusing me of? Deliberate over-sedation to prolong paralysis. Silence. Then Dr. Ilio laughed, cold, clinical. That's absurd. Minsu's condition is permanent. The medication manages pain, nothing more. Then explain why his pain has decreased since I reduced his dosages. Dr. Ilio went very still. You did what? I stopped giving him the pills, replaced them with traditional anti-inflammatories, and suddenly, miraculously, he's improving. You interfered with a medical treatment plan? That's illegal. Dangerous. I could have you arrested. For what? Helping my husband heal? Go ahead. Call the police. I have documentation. Photos of his medication schedule. Pharmacy records showing escalating dosages. Lab results proving neurological function you claimed didn't exist. Dr. Ilio's face darkened. You're playing a very dangerous game. So are you. Who's paying you? Baek Horyeon, Junho? Someone who benefits from Minsu's disability? Get out. Not until you admit what you've done. I've done nothing but care for a patient. You've poisoned him, kept him dependent, stolen 3 years of his life. Marcia's voice shook with rage. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows. Dr. Ilio stood, his movements slow, deliberate. Mrs. Oh, you don't understand what you're interfering with. Then explain it to me. Minsu weak is valuable. Minsu strong is... He stopped. Let's just say certain people prefer him in that chair. Certain people like Baek Horyeon. Dr. Ilio's silence was confirmation. Does Minsu know? Marcia asked. Does he know what? That his closest ally has been sabotaging him for 3 years. Dr. Ilio smiled, thin, cruel. He's about to. Marcia brought Minsu to the medical office an hour later. Dr. Ilio sat behind his desk, calm as stone. "Min-soo," he greeted. "Your wife has made some serious accusations." "I know," Min-soo's voice was ice. "Tell me she's wrong." "She's wrong." "Then explain the medication increases. Standard protocol for chronic conditions." "Stop lying." Min-soo slammed his hand on the desk. "I stood yesterday, for the first time in 3 years, after Marcia reduced my medication. So either you're incompetent or you're complicit." Dr. Ilio's expression didn't change. "You stood?" "I stood." "For how long?" "Long enough." Dr. Ilio leaned back. "And you think this is recovery? Min-soo, you have incomplete spinal healing at best. A few seconds of mobility doesn't mean... It means you've been lying to me for 3 fucking years." The room went silent. "Who paid you?" Min-soo demanded. "Baek Horyeon?" "How much did he offer to keep me weak?" "No one paid me." "Liar." "Min-soo, listen to me." "No, you listen." Min-soo rolled forward, his voice dropping to a lethal whisper. "You're fired. Effective immediately. If I find evidence you've taken money to sabotage my treatment, I'll have you prosecuted. And if I discover you've worked with anyone to prolong my disability..." He leaned closer. "I'll make sure you never practice medicine again." Dr. Ilio stood slowly. "You're making a mistake." "The mistake was trusting you." Dr. Ilio looked at Marcia. "This is your doing." "No," Min-soo said. "This is yours. Now get out." Dr. Ilio left. That night, Min-soo sat alone in his study, staring at a photograph on his desk. The picture showed him 3 years ago, standing, smiling, alive. Beside him stood a woman, beautiful, cold. Yuna Go, his former fiancée. "She was there," he said quietly. Marcia stood in the doorway. "Where?" "The ambush. She was supposed to meet me at the warehouse for a business deal, but when I arrived..." His voice cracked. "Baek Horyeon's men were waiting." Marcia stepped inside. "She set you up?" "She warned me. Told me to turn around, but I didn't listen." Min-soo's hands trembled. "They beat me. Shot me. Left me bleeding in the rubble. And Yuna..." He looked at the photograph. "She walked away." "Why?" "Because Baek Horyeon promised her more. Power, protection, a husband who wasn't broken." Marcia's chest tightened. "Min-soo..." "I loved her," he whispered, "and she left me to die." Marcia knelt beside him. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It taught me something." "What?" "That love isn't worth the risk." "You're wrong." He looked at her. "How?" "Because if love wasn't worth the risk, I wouldn't be here." Min-soo stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her like she was the only solid thing in a collapsing world. "I don't deserve you," he whispered. "Yes, you do. I've been cruel, cold. I pushed you away, and I stayed. Why? Because I saw who you could become. And who's that? Someone who stands." The next morning, Min-soo called an emergency meeting. His inner circle gathered: Junho, the accountant Dae Sung-kil, the legal counsel Myung-hee Ahn, and the security chief Chul-soo. "Back. Someone in this room," Min-soo began, "has been feeding information to Baek Horyeon." Silence. "Dr. Ilio is gone, but he didn't act alone. So I'll ask once, who's been betraying me?" No one spoke. Min-soo smiled. "Cold. Dangerous. Fine. Then we'll do this the hard way." He looked at Junho. "Bank records. Every transaction from every person in this room for the past 3 years. If anyone's received payments from Baek Horyeon's network, I want to know." Junho's face went pale. "Min-soo? Now? You don't understand." "Then explain." Junho looked around the room. Then he sighed. "He threatened my family, my daughter, said if I didn't cooperate..." "You sold me out to protect your daughter." "I didn't have a choice." "There's always a choice." Min-soo's voice was steel. "You're done. Leave now, or I'll have security remove you. Junho stood, his movements slow, defeated. I'm sorry, he whispered. So am I. After he left, Min-soo looked at the others. Anyone else? Head shakes, silence. Good, because if I find out anyone else has been lying, he paused. You'll wish Baek Horyeon got to you first. Later, Marcia found Min-soo in the garden. He sat in his wheelchair staring at the cherry blossoms. You handled that well, she said. I handled it like a tyrant. You handled it like a leader. Min-soo looked at her. I don't trust anyone anymore. You trust me. Do I? You're sitting here, alone, vulnerable. If you didn't trust me, you'd be behind locked doors. He smiled, small but real. You're right. Marcia sat beside him. Min-soo, what's your plan? For Baek Horyeon? For everything. He was quiet for a long moment. I'm going to walk again, fully, and when I do, I'm going to destroy everyone who kept me in this chair. And after? After I'm going to build something that can't be taken away. What? He looked at her. A life with you. That night, Min-soo made a decision. I'm appearing publicly, he announced at dinner. Lady Soo-min nearly dropped her chopsticks. What? There's a banquet next week, business summit. Baek Horyeon will be there. Min-soo's eyes hardened. I'm going. And I'm walking. You can't. I can. Marcia's been training me. I can stand for 3 minutes, walk with assistance for 10 steps. It's enough. Min-soo, if you fail publicly, then I fail. But if I don't try, Baek Horyeon wins. He looked at Marcia. And I'm done letting him win. Marcia's heart pounded. Are you sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Lady Soo-min looked between them. This is insane. Probably, Min-soo agreed, but it's also necessary. And in the corner, watching through the window, Althea pulled out her phone. The message was brief. He's walking. Be ready. Chapter 7. The Grand Hyatt. Seoul Ballroom glittered like a battlefield dressed in silk. 300 guests. Politicians. CEOs. Kingpins disguised as businessmen. And at the centre of it all, Baek Horyeon. He stood near the bar, a glass of whiskey in his hand, his smile sharp as a blade, mid-50s, silver-haired. Expensive suit, he looked like success. He smelled like blood. Marcia entered first, her hand resting on Min-soo's wheelchair. The room quieted. Whispers rippled through the crowd. That's Min-soo. Oh. I heard he's paralysed. Why would he come here? Baek Horyeon approached, his smile widening. Min-soo, what a surprise. I didn't think you'd attend. Why wouldn't I? Min-soo's voice was calm, controlled. Well, given your condition. Baek Horyeon gestured to the wheelchair. I assumed public events might be uncomfortable. The only thing uncomfortable is your assumption. Baek Horyeon laughed. Still sharp, I see. Good. The industry needs strong men. His eyes slid to Marcia. And who is this? My wife, Marcia. Ah, the replacement bride. I heard about that. Quite the family drama. Baek Horyeon extended his hand. A pleasure. Marcia shook it, her grip firm. Likewise. Tell me, Mrs. O, how are you finding Seoul? Must be quite different from... Where was it? Jamaica. Right. Island life. Very simple. Simple, Marcia repeated. Like your strategy? Baek Horyeon's smile tightened. Excuse me? Your strategy. Eliminate competitors through injury rather than innovation. Simple, predictable. Ultimately ineffective. The surrounding conversations stopped. Baek Horyeon's eyes hardened. Mrs. O, you should be careful with your words. Why? Are they inaccurate? They're inappropriate. So is sabotaging a business rival's medical treatment. Min-soo's hand found Marcia's. Careful, but she didn't back down. Baek Horyeon leaned closer. I have no idea what you're talking about. Don't you? Dr. Seongwan Ilyo, Junho Ri, both on your payroll, both involved in prolonging Minsu's disability. That's a serious accusation. It's a documented fact. Baek Horyeon looked at Minsu. You're letting your wife speak for you now. She speaks for herself, Minsu said quietly. I just happen to agree with her. The tension crackled. Then Baek Horyeon stepped back, his smile returning. Well, this has been enlightening. Enjoy the evening. He walked away. Marcia exhaled. That was reckless, Minsu murmured. That was necessary. He'll come for you now. Let him try. Halfway through the banquet, Althea made her entrance. She wore emerald silk and diamond earrings that caught the light like promises. Marcia saw her first. Of course she's here. Althea glided through the crowd, stopping at tables, laughing with ambassadors, charming ministers, and then she reached Minsu. Brother-in-law, her smile was radiant. You look wonderful. Althea, I didn't know you'd be here. I wouldn't miss it, especially after hearing about your progress. Her eyes flicked to Marcia. You must be so proud, Marcia. All your hard work paying off. I am. Though I have to ask, Althea tilted her head. What happens when Minsu recovers fully? Will you still be necessary? The question landed like a knife. Marcia's jaw tightened. I'm his wife. Not his nurse. Of course. But the marriage was arranged, wasn't it? A contract to fill a spot. Althea's smile sharpened. Once the spot doesn't need filling anymore. That's enough, Minsu said coldly. Althea blinked innocently. I'm just asking questions. You're implying Marcia's disposable. She's not. I never said... Yes, you did. Minsu rolled his wheelchair forward. And let me be very clear. Marcia is my wife, not temporary, not replaceable. My wife. If you have a problem with that, you can leave. Althea's face flushed. Minsu, I just thought... I don't care what you thought. Leave, now. For a moment, Althea looked ready to argue. Then she turned and walked away. Marcia exhaled slowly. Thank you, she whispered. You don't thank me for defending my wife. At 9 p.m., the banquet host called for speeches. Baek Horyeon went first, polished, confident, dangerous. Then it was Minsu's turn. The room fell silent as he rolled to the podium. Marcia stood behind him, her heart pounding. He's going to do it. He's actually going to do it. Minsu gripped the podium's edge. 3 years ago, he began. I was ambushed, left for dead. The doctors said I'd never walk again. Many of you believed them. Some of you hoped they were right. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. But here's the thing about broken men. Minsu's voice strengthened. We're harder to kill than you think. He pushed himself upward, slowly. The wheelchair rolled back. Marcia held her breath. Minsu's legs shook. His hands trembled. But he stood. The room gasped. Baek Horyeon's face went pale. Minsu stood for 5 seconds. 10. 15. Then he took a step. 1. 2. 3. The crowd erupted. Applause. Shock. Awe. Minsu reached for Marcia's hand, his grip iron strong. And this woman, his voice carried across the ballroom, is the reason I'm standing. My wife, Marcia Oh. The woman forced into this marriage, the woman dismissed as a replacement, the woman who saved my life. Tears streamed down Marcia's face. She didn't give up on me when everyone else did. She fought for me when I couldn't fight for myself. And I will spend the rest of my life proving she didn't waste her time. The applause intensified. Baek Horyeon stood frozen. And Althea, watching from the back, finally understood. She'd lost. That night, back at the compound, Minsu collapsed into bed, exhausted, exhilarated. Marcia sat beside him. You did it, she whispered. We did it. Minsu, I meant what I said about you. About us. He pulled her close. I don't know when it happened. Maybe when you exposed Daejung's forgery. Maybe when you refused to stop helping me. Maybe when you stood up to Althea. But somewhere along the way, you fell in love with me. Yes, Marcia smiled through tears. Good, because I fell in love with you too. He kissed her then, not as a contract, not as an obligation, but as a choice. And for the first time since the wedding, their marriage felt real. But outside the bedroom in the darkened hallway, Althea stood listening. Her phone glowed in the darkness. The message was already typed. Minsu humiliated Beck Horieon publicly. He won't let this stand. If you want revenge, now's the time. She hesitated, then she pressed send, and disappeared into the night. Chapter 8. 3 days after the banquet, Marcia woke to chaos. Police cars surrounded the compound. Officers swarmed the gate. News helicopters circled overhead. She ran to Minsu's room. He sat at his desk, his expression carved from stone. What's happening? Beck Horien filed charges. Fraud, embezzlement, corporate espionage. Minsu's jaw tightened. He's claiming I've been using my disability as cover for illegal activities. That's insane. It's strategic. If he can tie me up in court, prove I faked my paralysis for sympathy. But you didn't fake it, you were actually injured. Try proving that now that I'm walking. Marcia's stomach dropped. He's framing you. Worse, he's using my recovery as evidence of deception. Then we fight back. With what? His lawyers are the best in Korea. He's got politicians, judges, media contacts. And we have the truth. Minsu looked at her, his eyes haunted. Truth doesn't win wars, Marcia. Power does. Then it's good you're not powerless anymore. That afternoon, Lady Su-min burst into the study, her face pale. We have a problem. Another one? Minsu asked bitterly. Althea. Lady Su-min threw a folder on the desk. She's been feeding information to Beck Horieon. Marcia's blood turned to ice. What? Bank transfers, emails, phone records. She's been in contact with Beck Horion's legal team since the banquet, providing details about Minsu's medical history, recovery timeline, financial dealings. Minsu opened the folder, his expression darkening with every page. Why would she... Marcia stopped. Because I took what she thought was hers. Partially, Lady Su-min said, but also because Beck Horien paid her. $2 million, wired to an offshore account 3 days ago. Minsu looked up. Where is she? Hotel Schiller. Room in 03. Call security. I want her here, now. Althea arrived an hour later, flanked by O family security. She looked smaller somehow, scared. Minsu, I can explain. Don't. His voice was ice. Just tell me why. Althea's eyes filled with tears. Because it should have been me. I was supposed to marry you. I was supposed to be Mrs. O, but I got scared. And I ran, and then... She looked at Marcia. She took everything. She didn't take anything, Minsu said quietly. You gave it away. I made a mistake. No, you made a choice. And now you're making another one. Working with Beck Horien. Sabotaging my recovery. Trying to destroy my wife. Marcia stepped forward. Althea stood. I never wanted to take your place. But you did. Because you didn't want it. You looked at Minsu in that wheelchair and walked away. I stayed. Because you had no choice. I always had a choice, and I chose him. Every day, every moment he pushed me away, every time he told me to leave. Marcia's voice softened. I chose him. Not his money, not his power. Him. Althea's face crumpled. I'm sorry. Are you? Or are you just sorry you got caught? Althea looked away. Minsu stood slowly but steadily. You have 2 options. Option 1, cooperate. Testify against Beck Horien. Provide evidence of his conspiracy. In exchange, we won't press charges. And option 2, prison, fraud, conspiracy, corporate espionage. Pick your charge. Althea's hands shook. If I testify, Beck Horian will kill you, maybe. But he'll definitely kill you if you don't cooperate. At least this way, you have protection. Althea looked at Marcia, her eyes desperate. You have to hate me. I do, Marcia said quietly. But I also understand you. You wanted safety, security, love. So did I. The difference is, I didn't sell someone's life to get it. Althea's tears fell freely now. I'll testify, she whispered. The trial took 6 weeks. Althea's testimony was damning. Recorded conversations, financial transfers, emails outlining Beck Horian's plan to incapacitate Min Soo permanently. Dr. Ilio was arrested. Junho turned state's witness, and Beck Horian, the untouchable Kingpin, was sentenced to 15 years. When the verdict was read, Min Soo reached for Marcia's hand. We won, he whispered. You won. No, we won. That night, the O family held a formal dinner. Every business associate, every political ally, every elite family who'd ever questioned Marcia's place. And at the head of the table, Min Soo stood. I want to make something clear, he began. Marcia O is not my replacement wife. She's not a contract. She's not a placeholder. He looked at her. She's the woman who saved my life, who fought for me when I couldn't fight for myself, who turned a forced marriage into the greatest partnership I've ever known. He pulled a ring from his pocket, not the one from their wedding. A new one. Sapphire, flawless. Marcia, I'm asking you again, not because I have to, because I want to. He knelt, shakily, imperfectly, but powerfully. Will you marry me? For real this time. Marcia's tears fell freely. Yes. The room erupted in applause. And for the first time in her life, Marcia Lewis felt chosen. Later that night, alone in their bedroom, Min Soo asked the question he'd been afraid to voice. If I lose everything tomorrow, the money, the power, the empire, would you stay? Marcia looked at him, her eyes clear. Min Soo, I married you when you had nothing but a wheelchair and a reputation for cruelty. I stayed when your family hated me. I fought for you when you'd given up on yourself. She touched his face. I didn't fall in love with your empire. I fell in love with you. But what if there's no what if? I chose you. I choose you. I'll always choose you. Min Soo pulled her close, his heart finally at peace. Then I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret it. Chapter 9. 6 months later, the O compound garden bloomed with cherry blossoms, soft pink, infinite. Marcia stood beneath the trees, her hand resting on her stomach. She wasn't showing yet, but she knew. Mrs. O? Lady Sumin approached, smiling. The photographer's ready. Already? Min Soo's been waiting for 20 minutes. You know how impatient he gets. Marcia laughed. I do. They walked together through the garden, past the fountain, toward the terrace where Min Soo stood. He'd ditched the wheelchair permanently 3 months ago. Now he walked freely, strong, confident, whole. When he saw Marcia, his entire expression softened. You're late, he said, by 2 minutes. 2 minutes too long. She reached him and he pulled her close, his lips finding hers. Are you nervous? She asked. About? The interview. The journalists. Telling our story. Min Soo glanced at the camera crew setting up. A little. But it's important. People need to know what happened, how Beck Horian operated, how easily power can corrupt. And how easily love can heal. He smiled. That too. The journalist, a woman named Eunji Choi from Korea's most respected investigative news program, sat across from them. Mr. and Mrs. O, thank you for agreeing to this interview. Thank you for having us, Min Soo said. Let's start at the beginning. 3 years ago, you were ambushed, left paralyzed. The public believed you'd never recover. What changed? Min Soo looked at Marcia. She did. Eunji leaned forward. Your wife, who was originally intended to marry your... My sister, Marcia finished. Althea. And she refused. She did. Why? Marcia took a breath. Because she saw the wheelchair and decided Min-soo wasn't worth her time. And you? I saw a man who'd been betrayed by everyone he trusted. I saw someone who needed help, but refused to ask for it. I saw, she paused, someone worth fighting for. But you were forced into this marriage. I was. So how did obligation become love? Marcia glanced at Min-soo, her eyes soft. Because he let me see him. Not the Kingpin. Not the business tycoon. Just him. Scared. Angry. Broken. Human. She squeezed his hand. And somewhere in that brokenness, I found something beautiful. Yunji looked at Min-soo. And you? When did you realize Marcia was more than just a replacement? The moment she exposed Dae-jung's art forgery, Min-soo said. I expected a scared rural girl. Instead, I got a woman who dismantled a business associate's entire reputation in 5 minutes. She was brilliant, fearless, and I knew. His voice softened. I knew she was exactly who I needed. But your recovery, medical professionals said it was impossible. Medical professionals were wrong, Marcia said firmly. Or they were lying. Explain. Min-soo's expression hardened. Dr. Seong-gwan Ilyo, my personal physician, was paid by Baek Horyeon to prolong my disability. He over-medicated me, convinced me recovery was impossible, kept me dependent. And Marcia discovered this. She suspected. Then she proved it. How? Marcia smiled. Traditional Jamaican medicine. Observation. And a refusal to accept what everyone else accepted as truth. You believed he could heal when no one else did. I believed he deserved the chance to try. The interview cut to footage, Marcia arriving in Korea 3 years ago. Young, scared, invisible. Then current footage, Marcia at a business summit standing beside Min-soo, commanding respect. Eunji's voiceover, from replacement bride to equal partner, from discarded sister to irreplaceable wife. Marcia Oh's journey represents more than personal triumph. It represents the power of seeing potential where others see limitation. Cut back to the interview. Mrs. Oh, what would you say to your younger self? The girl who boarded that plane to Korea? Marcia's eyes filled with tears. I'd tell her. They're going to underestimate you. They're going to mock you. They're going to treat you like you're nothing. And that's their biggest mistake. Because when people underestimate you, they give you power. They don't even realize they're handing over. Use it. Fight. Survive. And when you stand at the end, when you've proven everyone wrong, remember who you were. Remember where you came from. Because that's the person who made you strong. After the interview, after the cameras left, Marcia and Min-soo stood alone in the garden. I have something to tell you, Marcia said. What? I'm pregnant. Min-soo froze. You're 12 weeks. His eyes widened. Then he pulled her close, his laughter bright and disbelieving. We're having a baby. We're having a baby. How long have you known? 2 weeks. I wanted to be sure before I told you. Min-soo knelt, slowly, reverently, and placed his hand on her stomach. Hello, little one, he whispered. I'm your father, and this. He looked up at Marcia, tears streaming down his face. Is your mother, the strongest person I've ever known. Marcia's tears fell freely. Min-soo, you saved my life, Marcia. You gave me hope. You gave me love. And now... He stood, pulling her into his arms. You're giving me a future. 3 years ago, Marcia Lewis boarded a plane to Korea. She was 19 years old. Unwanted. Unimportant. A replacement for the daughter who mattered. She married a man who could not stand. A man who did not want her. A man whose empire was built on fear and whose heart was locked behind walls of betrayal. And slowly, quietly, impossibly, she became the only woman who could reach him, the only person who could heal him, the only wife he would ever choose. Not because she was perfect, but because she refused to give up on him when everyone else had. Marcia stood in the garden, Min-soo's arms wrapped around her, their future growing inside her. And she thought of Eudora, Her grandmother, who taught her that bodies remember healing. She thought of St. Dathryn, the place that forged her strength. She thought of Althea, the sister who gave her the greatest gift without meaning to, the chance to become irreplaceable. "What are you thinking?" Minsu asked. Marcia smiled. "That I was sent as a replacement. And I became the only one." Thank you so much for reading Marcia and Minsu's story. If this journey moved you, if you connected with Marcia's resilience or Minsu's redemption, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with someone who needs to hear that being underestimated is sometimes the greatest advantage of all. Drop an emoji in the comments if you're Team Marcia, or a thumbs up if you relate to Minsu's struggle, and tell me, what's your replacement to irreplaceable story? I'll feature the best responses in our next video. Don't forget to click the next video on your screen. There's more where this came from. Thank you for watching, and remember, you're not just a substitute. You're not just temporary. You're irreplaceable.